The scariest thing that ever happened to me was in the parking lot of the Walmart in Mount Dora, Florida. It wasn't scary because it was life-threatening or some big unresolved mystery. It's scary because it's true. It's scary because we did get answers regarding the incident that had us running from a dark parking lot on a warm summer's night, almost 10 years ago now. And those were answers that I still dwell on sometimes in my darkest moments. Back in 2011, I was just 17 years old. A dumb kid who cared more about getting hype than getting educated. Life was good in our small, well-off Florida town. Mount Dora is known for its small-town charm, being home to a handful of museums and many antique stores that sell quaint little trinkets to tourists. But that doesn't exactly make for an exciting nightlife. And there's not much to do for a teenager looking for excitement. So, instead of finding something productive to do, my friends and I would just cruise around in the evenings, getting stoned and wasting time talking about the band we would never end up forming. So we're chilling in the Walmart parking lot one night, passing a joint around and listening to some Zeppelin on my buddy's car stereo. The place is pretty much deserted, except for a few parked cars and some raccoons pillaging some nearby garbage cans. We were smoking and laughing at the little critters, watching them use their little hands to rummage through torn open trash bags, when one of the nearby cars catches my eye. It was an '87 Cadillac. That detail always stuck with me. It was filthy, like seriously nasty looking, like the only washes that ever got were from the heavy Florida rains. What's more, the inside of the Cadillac was filled with trash. Not like a few fast food wrappers on the dashboard and some junk in the trunk. I mean, like pretty much all you could see inside the vehicle was just all kinds of garbage. Legit the kinds of stuff that belonged in the trash bags our little raccoon homies were ripping up. I wondered what kind of bum on that thing. How the hell they'd let all that stuff just build up and build up, until their car looked more like a dumpster than a sedan. But I didn't really think any more of it, not until I saw something moving among the garbage. I told my friends, pointed over at the mobile trash can, and told them something was moving around inside. They instantly left, telling me I was seeing stuff, and that I shouldn't smoke so much if I couldn't handle it. At the time, I just left to thinking they might have been right. I mean, it was late. It was dark out. And yeah, I was pretty lifted. A little time passed enough for me to relax again. And we're arguing over whether to hit up White Castle or Arby's or something, when I see it again. The pile of garbage in the rolling trash can shuffling around again. Only this time, I'm 100% sure of what I saw. My eyes weren't playing tricks on me, and I didn't care if my friends saw it or not. They asked me what the hell I was doing as I slowly opened the car door and got out. I walked quietly across the dark parking lot, slowly approaching the filthy Cadillac to appear inside. It was just a sea of junk in their old soda cans, newspapers, plastic bags. I still remember just how badly that thing smelled. Like old milk and rotten meat. Nothing was steering now. The whole mess was perfectly still. I reached up and wiped a little of the grammar away from the window with the sleeve of my jacket. Yeah, it was gross, but I needed to see inside. There was something hiding in that car, something that was watching us, and I needed to know what it was. Nervously, I reached up with a fist and began to lightly tap on the car's grubby window, hoping it would spook whatever was in there into revealing itself. But still nothing moved. Nothing stirred. The only sound was the chirping of crickets and the sound of my friend rolling our car window down. Dude, it's probably rats in that thing. Get the hell away from it. Of course it was. Of course it was damned rats. There I was, stoned out of my mind, freaking out about a dirty old car full of rotten food. What else would be attracted to a mess like that? What else could find its way into a locked car and scuttle around among the trash? Feeling pretty dumb, I turned back to my buddies in the car and started to say something about maybe being a little too high. But their faces, I'd never seen them look like they did that night. Their eyes were so big. Giant white circles bored into their heads. that had the hair standing up on the back of my neck. They were looking behind me at the dirty old Cadillac. I didn't want to turn to look. But I had to just for a second just to see what it was. A creature with pale scaly skin, pushing its grubby claws against the glass. Smiled back at me as I felt my guts tighten with fear. It blinked, licked its lips, then cocked its misshapen head in my direction. I ran to the car with my buddy screaming at me to hurry. I practically dived into the passenger seat as we rode off into the night, tire screaming on the tarmac as we escaped. We were terrified to freak out to think about eating. With our highs totally ruined, we headed home early to sleep it off and try to forget. The next morning I was eating breakfast watching the local news when a story came on that almost made me spit out my cereal. On the TV screen was a dirty Cadillac. The same dirty Cadillac that was filled with a pile of garbage and rotten food. The news anchor was talking about what had been found among the junk. Something that had been living among that pile of refuse that had caught my eye just the night before. It was a kid. 3 kids, actually children, left to sleep in that car by the neglectful drug-addicted parents. The skills I thought I saw on the one kid were actually second-degree burns from where the parents had spilled hot coffee on the poor little guy. The news anchor explained that because of the drugs and alcohol found in the vehicle, there was little to no chance that the kids would be returned to their parents. Part of me was kind of glad for that. It got me thinkingly obsessed over fictional monsters. Things that lurk in the shadows. Things that go bump in the night. But the things we really should be afraid of aren't the things that haunt our imaginations, but the monsters we create in reality through gluttony, sloth, and indifference. If ever work night shifts. I know some of you have normal people don't really know what it's like to be wide awake when the rest of the world is sleeping peacefully. It's lonely, sure. I find it difficult to keep up with my daywalker friends, and I'm pretty sure it's cost me 1 or 2 girlfriends. But above all, it's weird, but due to my own dumb mistakes in life, it's pretty much all the work I can get. Yeah, I got a record. Not many places will take me on, let alone give me any serious responsibility. So when the local Walmart here in Nogales, Arizona, offered me a position as a 3rd shift security guard, I pretty much jumped at the chance. The pay is awesome. Well, as awesome as it's going to get for a guy with my kind of past. So I'm sitting in the security office one night, trying not to pass out from boredom. I haven't given up on trying to read this gigantic Stephen King book I got for my 30th birthday. I keep telling myself to read more, but it's tough. I didn't exactly do well in school, so I feel like I missed out on so many cool stories. Yeah, I've seen The Shining and all that, but I get sick of people telling me how much better the book is. It makes me feel dumb for not having read it. Anyway, I'm dying of boredom, so I decided to go on a little foot patrol. Maybe grab a smoke at one of the emergency exits or something. The boss man checks the CCTV occasionally just to make sure we're not sleeping on the job, which some guys actually get fired for doing. So I get up and wander around the store in clear view of the cameras before ducking out an exit to light up. Now Walmart parking lots can get pretty crazy. I've seen full-on fistfights between customers over stuff as small as a parking space. I've had to chase away couples getting a little too fresh in their cars, although that can be hilarious sometimes. And it only gets weirder at night. Meth heads, drug dealers, people who've met on Craigslist selling each of the weirdest stuff. For some reason, they all choose to meet in Walmart parking lots. So as I'm lining up, a single parked sedan catches my attention in the deserted lot. It stuck out like a sore thumb. This old bedded Ford just sat there all by itself. Oh God. What now? I'm thinking, just preparing myself for whatever bout of crazy was about to unfold. I watched the car for a minute or two, seeing the driver clearly in the front seat. Not like perfectly clearly, it's almost pitch black obviously. But you know when you can see like the outlines of a person in the front seat. Yeah. That only he's not moving at all. He's just sat perfectly still in the middle of the parking lot. I started making little bits with myself in a game I like to call drugs, sex, or mental illness. Pretty much every encounter I ever have during a shift can be put into one of those categories. Either they're high, horny, or just bats hit crazy. Now my first thoughts here were 6. The guy is waiting for a prostitute, calling one of those dumb 1 to 800 numbers, or just jerking it to something gross on his phone. Either way, it's nothing I need to call the cops over. So I just finished my smoke and head back inside. An hour or so later the same deal occurs. My eyes are closing and I'm finding it harder and harder to stay awake. So I make one of those terrible tasting instant coffees and head out for another smoke. Only when I get to the emergency exit and step out into the night, that same damn car is there, having not moved in it. Obviously, I'm getting a little suspicious about it now, but mainly because I had no idea what it was doing there. I can spot a drug deal or some shady meetup from like a mile away, but they tend to be over and done with kind of fast. They don't hang around in the parking lot set still in the driver's seat. Then it hit me, the exterior cameras. They're all night vision capable with zoom lenses. All I had to do was head back to the office and mess with the settings, and I'd have pretty much the snipers look into the interior of the car. So with the Mission Impossible theme playing in my head, I rushed back to the office and started spying on the sedan, zooming in on the car. The scene lit up by the light-sensitive cameras. I could clearly see this guy's face along with a big vintage mustache. The dude has sunglasses on, sat in his car in the middle of the night with shades on. Yep. The guy must have been high as okay. So if it's anything drug-related, I'm pretty much obliged to go out to the car and wave them away. No one wants the cops called on them when they have a vehicle full of weed or whatever. So it's an easy enough test. I wander out to the car, taking it pretty slow 9 times out of 10. As I'm approaching, the lights will turn on and the car just speeds off out of the parking lot. Only this one just sits there, the guy not moving at all. I tap on the back window only, gently, and say something stern along the lines of, "Time to leave, buddy. This ain't a motel." Still no movement. I turn on my torch and I see why. I didn't take in much detail, I didn't need to. There was blood everywhere. Things that should have been inside this dude were festering on the cars for little trickles of blood, appearing from under his shades where whoever had done this had taken his eyes too. I ran about as far as I could before I vomited hot coffee onto the parking lot surface. I was still reaching when I called 911 from the security office. It all seems like a blur now, when I look back on it. But what I saw in that car still appears before my eyes sometimes, when I close them at night. It's burned into my goddamn memory, and I don't think I'll ever get it out. Nogales is a border town, and it didn't take the cops long to work out that the dead body was some kind of cartel-related killing. God knows what this poor guy had done, but he must have messed up bad enough to warrant that sort of punishment. These days, I carry a .38 on the job. I've never been interested in firearms, but I feel like I should carry one now, especially when I go out into the parking lot of the Nogales Walmart, just in case I run into the guys who turned that old sedan into something that'll haunt me for the rest of my life. Without being specific, I live in southern Canada in a relatively decent-sized city, but one that has always felt safe to me. I mean, it is Canada, right? I have always had an interest in true crime, and been aware of my surroundings, hence my post here. Thank God. It was a beautiful day. Winter was just coming to an end. As a last-minute decision, I decided I needed a hair product I could only get in my local Walmart. Me being 20, I drove myself, parked my car, and got out walking towards Walmart. As I'm walking, I hear a man out of nowhere calling, "Ma'am." It is a man in his 50s to 60s with glasses. He approaches me asking me how I liked my car, because his son was thinking about getting the same one. Fair enough. But not really, as I drive a common Ford car. I answered him, and then he pinches my coat. If someone pulls out of their spot and tells me about how I should be locking my car doors from the inside before I get out because someone got their stuff stolen, I have to be safe as a girl. But that not anything happened to the girl. He then grabbed my coat again and continued on about the story. I was polite and thought maybe it was just a too friendly old man. My parents did raise me to be polite. I was just looking forward to making it into the store. A second man approaches the first man wearing a black ball cap, and he looked older. Definitely in his 60s, and they were chatting with each other as if they just happened to run into each other. I thought it was a natural occurrence, until they continued walking together without saying anything, while the first man continues his conversation with me. Or at least he tries to. The first man put his arm out to say almost like go through the door first. So I did not thinking anything of it. Even though this door was 3 people wide easily, I was a tad nervous at this point, and walked into the store so quickly. I made a direct right into the themed aisles, and speed walked down to the shampoo aisle, which was not far. I also only had to turn down one of the aisles to find it, so I had not been perusing down aisles looking. I knew exactly where to go and what I was grabbing. I was down the aisle for less than 5 seconds when that first man suddenly walked down the aisle. I looked up and a sick feeling invaded my body. My fight or flight kicked in, and I grabbed the thing I wanted and hurried towards the cash registers. I picked the female cashiers to cash me out just in case I would have to say something. I am in line now behind only one man, and I look behind me to see that the second man, who the first man ran into right before entering the store, was now walking back and forth along the checkouts watching me, with nothing in his hands. Keep in mind I was literally in the store for less than 5 minutes. As I cash out my things, I see one cashier over the second man, who was watching me, cashing out a pack of gum. He finished cashing out first, and then just stood there on the path towards my only EXI.T thanks coronavirus, as if he was waiting for someone. Even though he didn't initially enter the store with this man, they just happened to run into each other, but they weren't shopping together. I contemplate my next move, and instead of asking the cashier for help, I figured these 2 older men depended on the sneak attack rather than being able to catch someone. So I book it. Also, don't do this like me. You should pay attention to your surroundings. But I speed down, my best friend in tears, as I am running to my car. I frantically tell her I am being followed. 2 men are following me, and then I don't know what to do. I make it to my car, get in my car, lock the doors, and I don't see the first man's bright blue truck parked around me anymore. Obviously, I took the long way home, making sure I wasn't being followed. I am kept up at night wondering what would have happened to me. I live in a border city with easy access to the highway. It's easy to think about ending up as another face plastered on a billboard.